בכנסת בשביל לעשות את הקינות ב9:30.
בשם נעשה ונצליח. Okay. Just need to get the right screen. That's not giving me the right screen. Yeah. Okay, we're in the middle of the Kavanot of Kriyat Hamitta. Baruch Hashem, Zachinu, Leotzi. We zochet to take out this new Kitzur Kavanot. Just got the main Kavanot of the Kriyat Hamitta, meaning we haven't put in any of the Chudim and not Matbea Bracha, just the basics. Now, what we want to basically do now is to go through Kriyat Hamitta according to this order, and Asher me that is going to be able to do this as it is. Something wrong with this screen over here. That's better. Whoever can just do this, I'm telling you, it's a very big thing. We can do it, and then when you get used to this, then to go back and add the other bits to it, it's very good. What we want to do then is to go to the main sources for Kriyat Hamitta in Sha'ar Kavanot, but not all of the Kavanot is in Sha'ar Kavanot. Some of the Kavanot, the main Kavanot for Kriyat Hamitta is in Sha'ar Ruach HaKodesh, where it talks about a certain yichud, which we're going to have to touch into at some point, which is where if you go to the care of a tzaddik and you want to connect to his neshama, and then you can ask him anything, he'll tell you anything you want. Yeah, the way you have to do that is connected to Kriyat Hamitta. In other words, there was a story where the Arizal told Rav Chaim Vital that he's the neshama of these very great people, and then he told him about certain yichudim, and then he went and did it in the kever of Abaya and Rabbah. When he went to the Sha'ar Gilgulim, when he went over there, remember today is the outside of the Arizal. Let's not forget. I want to start with that. The Arizal told him to go and do. He went over to the kever of Abaya and he did two yichudim. This one that we're talking about, and another one called Chotam Peh. Did that one first. And then after he finished this yichud, which is in all the tefillot, it's in Shema, it's in the Fratapayim, it's in the places where we have to send up the man. So in order to do that, you need the zchut of us, because our Shoresh Neshama comes from a high place. And so we've got the koch to take up the birurim. So when he did this yichud, Abaya started talking to him, and he started telling him, you're greater than all this great chachamim, and even greater than Tanaim, and even greater than your Rebbe, and he was going to him all these great, amazing things. And he told him, now go to your Rebbe, the Arizal, and tell him to teach you how to do it in Shachrit, Mincha, and Arvit every day. And if you do that, then Abaya will, like I will be, not only be with you, sometimes I'll be with you for your whole life, the Bi'ur Neshama. Right? And so he went and he told him, tell the Arizal, I'll tell him how to do it. Right? And he'll teach you. So he went and he told him how to do it. And it says at the end of Sha'ar HaKodesh, Zeh Masha Masali Mori Zal Be'al Peh. That means it's not written down, all of it is not written down in Sha'ar HaKodesh. But the thing is that most of it is built around Kriyat Hamitta, not Shachrit Mincha Arvit, which is very strange because you have to do in Shachrit Mincha Arvit, because in Shachrit and Mincha you've also got one kavanah or two in Shema, which brings the Kad Sha'ot back into the everyday prayer. Meaning, when we're doing the prayers of Shachrit, for example, we said it's the Kelim Pnimiyim, right, of Zun, and then Mincha. That's on the third day, right? Before that was a mincha, that was an arvit. And we call that the zuna prati. But there is somewhere in Shachrit where you have to do something for Kriyat Hamitta's Siddur as well, the 3-day Siddur. It comes into the prayers as well, right? And it's dafka over there where you have to connect to the tzaddik to go up, because you have to take the birum up. So that happens in the same. But where there's zivug abba v'ima, that's where it always happens. So in order to do that, we'll see that Kriyat Hamitta, there's this. Why did I bring that into it? Because in Sha'ar HaKodesh, that's what explains it. So because you're learning about what to do in the care of a tzaddik, they said now I'll tell you the whole order of Kriyat Hamitta, and 3 pages on it, more than in Sha'ar Kavanot. It's more monogel and master. So that becomes one of the main sources for it. So if you open the booklets and we're on page 2, the first thing is on the top, there's this table with the orange, red, and the yellow. Now, this requires time. I would not expect everyone to get this in one go, but I'm going to attempt now to talk about Kad Sha'ot. This is something which is quoted in all the Sfarim, right? I've Baruch Hashem written a whole contrast on it. And there are different ways to explain it, and they're very complicated, right? And after Baruch Hashem, many years, literally many years, we're zoche to three sources. One is the Shari Rachamim, where the brings of the Sadeh, and Kerem Shlomo, Rav Mordechai Eliyahu's father, who was a Talmid of the Sadeh, yeah, and Rav Yehuda Ftaya, and a few other places. And we learn Baruch Hashem, and all of that it explains everything in a very simple way. And if I'll explain it to you, say, well, what's complicated about that? That's because you haven't learned it for so many years to see all the other complicated other ways of explaining it, right? But the kids say what it means is that the Sadeh explained to us, and the Rav Quinker's got a whole different way of doing it, but of course, Sadeh explained to us how they're all the same thing. Right. So when I went to Rav Morgenstern, I said to him, well, how do you? He said, yeah, just go over. He said, you'll see. You see, oh, it's all like one within the other. Just have to just go slowly, and you'll get it. Like, yeah. Right. So if you look at his Siddur, he's got like all these extra zivugim in Shemona Esrei, which is because he's doing what we're about to explain. Yeah. So it means like this. It says in Etz Chaim, in Sha'ar Zivugim. It's talking about all the parts of him and the zivugim that they are. And it says there's something called zivug ner, right? So we explained before zivug ner, we learn it in Chanukah, we did a bit about Chanukah. But it means that Zan and Nuk, they grow into different levels as they go up. And first they start on the lowest level called Nai, and that's in the level, right, connected the higher parts of that'll be where the Nai is. So when the Nai of Zan, the Nai of Nuk, and Nuk have a zivug, and at that level is Havaya Nuk. And then when they go a bit higher to Chaga, then it's Havaya Elokim. And when they go up to Chabad, then it's Havaya Ekia. And if you take the gematria of Havaya Ekia, Havaya Elokim, and Havaya Adonai, it adds up to Ner. So that's called Zivug Ner. That means the whole Kama of Zah and Nuk are together, and they both are complete, right? So that means it's talking about aliyot, that you go up to higher places, right? And in Etz Chaim it says, the zivug of Havaya Adonai is in Lachash, Shemona Esrei. When you get to Sim Shalom and you do the zivug at the end of Sim Shalom, that is called Nai, right? That's Havaya Adonai. Then when you do the Chazara again, another Sim Shalom. We just did it. Why have to do it again, right? So no, because that's a new tikkun. That's Chagat. That's Havaya Elokim, right? Sometimes the bottom one's called Yaakov Rachel, the other one's called Zav Veleah. Zun, and that top one is called Abba Ve'ima. I'm going to the different names, but it all means the same thing. So where's Chabad? Right? So the answer Chabad is in Nefilat Apayim. Right? That's what it says in Etz Chaim. There's three things, and that means they're connected. That means that they're connected. Now, Nefilat Apayim, we have a zivug after Vaya Avor. Yeah. Now, in the word Vaya'avor is another zivug. It's called Yisrael V'Leah. And we're going to go into today, but that actually is the first half of Chabad. So it's part of Chabad. So that's problem's gone away, right? So then they asked them, if Farshim asked, Emet Ve'eretz, different Chachamim of Chalab, he wrote seven Eretz Ve'eretz, and Eretz is Am Soba, yeah? And Rabbi Yehuda Ftaya, others say, why do we have to say Vayavor again on Mondays and Thursdays? Say it once, enough. Why is it many times? So it's the sword of a Chatan and Kala who's Boel v'chozer Boel. Right? Chozer Boel. That means it's all part of the same system that you're doing again. It's not a different partsuf. Rather, the same partsuf, you did it once. Now again, another zivug for the same thing. Can't say this one is on day one and that was on day two, because it's part of the same. You can say it happens a day later, maybe. You know, it says in Yanda, they're all connected. All the zivugim, and it says this lashon even by the Chabad after the other one. Anyway, kids, I'm just trying to bring you different rayot to show you that actually the Chabad of Nefilat Apayim, which until now we were explaining as the Kachaot, is actually the third stage after Lachash v'Chazara. So you got Lachash, Chazara, and then Nefilat Apayim.
So what happens if there's no Chazat?
So it's done b'meila. Shachrit mincha. So you can do all the kavanot. So you can do the kavanot without Shemona Esrei. That's a chidush. But you can do all the kavanot, even in Kaddish, everything. When there's no, you can still do all the kavanot. It's a chidush, right? So I will tell you, if you heard what I said, I just said the most simplest thing, and now everything else you're going to learn is going to complicate this. But if you just know this, like an Amaret, that's what you have to remember. That's all you have to remember. And then everything is very simple, because you should just remember this is easy because you're only learning this for the first time. We did the other way around. For years, we're learning all the other complicated stuff. And then this is the answer. So when you see the answer, you've got to think to do with all the other information, right? But really, it's very, very simple. Lachash, Sim Shalom. You did a zivugim, that's nai. Hazara, right now in another lashon of Shara Kavanot, it says the lachash is bina, and the Chazara is chokhmah. You got one level to chagat, and the Tapayim is ketet, right? So it's the same thing, about the same thing, but it's there to make people get confused. So those who know, oh, will give up and not learn, right? But we learn something very amazing now, because we're saying that there's really three levels to a zivug. Lachash, Chazara, Neflat Apayim. Now we have to ask the question, is the Neflat Apayim on the same day or a different day? Lachash, Chazara is definitely on the right? So there's three different Siddarim that we need to now use concurrently and understand how they connect. That, in other words, each one talks about day one, day two, sometimes day three. But it's not talking about the same day one, the same day two, and the same day three. And that's what took me so many years. I'm talking about a decade to work out. It took a decade to work that out. No one Shiurim is fine, but I read about it, talks about it, right? But if you break it down very, very slowly, you'll see that there's three different scenarios, right? And we've learned all of these three scenarios. We just didn't realize, put it together, right? So let's start with the first one on the top of the page, right? Which is the orange one. Okay, the orange Siddur of the orange one is telling us, right? It says Gimel Kelim the Zuna Prati. That means Shachrit Mincha Arvit. So you can see we've learned this before. We've talked about it. So we can see now Arvit is Leil Aleph, right? Then you go through Yom Aleph, you come to Leil Bet. Then you come to Yom Bet in Mincha. In the afternoon, you go on Mincha of that day. It means you went right past Shachrit and you ignored it. Just drove past and way. Said, not interested in you this today. Tomorrow we'll deal with you, right? And then on the third day, Yom Gimel, there's a Shachrit over there, which is Kli Pnimi. Right? So we explained this before. Kilim of a partsuf of Zavinuk. You understand? So if you talk about completing the whole partsuf of a Zun, it'll take you 3 days till you get to that Shachrit. So whenever you talk about Naam and Shachrit, that means there was already 2 days before I did Arvit, before the Mincha, and now the Shachrit. So that's one aspect of. But when we talk about the next one, the red one, that's talking about the new Birim Chadashim. We're only looking at Shachrit now. The Shachrit on a particular day, we said it goes all the way up, then it comes back down. The next day it goes back up again. And in Sim Shalom of that Tefillah, that's where there'll be the Zivugim that we're talking about, of Lachash and Chazara, of Nai and Chagat. So if you're talking about now, I'm now Shmona Esrei of Sim Shalom of Shachrit, right? And I got to Sim Shalom. That means I'm talking about Biurim that who are on the second day. You understand? And in the Lachash and the Chazara of that second day, you will fix the partsuf of what we said earlier of Nai and Chagat. You understand what I'm saying? That's called Zuna Prati. So Rabbi Shaul basically says, based on Etz Hayim, in Etz Hayim it's telling you Lachash Chazara Neflat Apayim. So he says, when you say Zuna Prati, that's the red ones. That's the first, the days of Lachash and Chazara of Sim Shalom. That's called Zuna Prati. Now when you talk about what's going to happen next, which is actually going to be on the same day, later on in Neflat Apayim, not going to be the next day. It's going to be the same day, the same second day. If you're talking about the second day of when the Biurim first came into the Olamot, then really it's happening on the second day. But you have to really understand that Kriyat Shema Hamitta story started 3 days ago. That is all for the Partsuf of Chabad, which means the Partsuf of Chabad starts working even before you got to the first Shachri of the first day of the Biurim of Chagat Nai. You understand? The red box starts 1 day later, can you see? But 1 day before that, you had the whole binyan of the Achor of Kriyat Shema Hamitta. But the whole of Kriyat Shema is another family. I mean, it's part of the same bigger partuf of we call Zivug Ner. In that way, they're all connected. But the fact that Chabad starts a day before the Chaga and the Nai, the red one, the yellow one starts one day before, it doesn't matter because it's a different Birurim. It's a Birurim for the Chabad. And this is the whole thing that people don't know. That this is the big Chidush. That the last one, the yellow one, is called Partuf Chabad. That's called Zun Dechlalut Kol HaKadshot, the yellow one. And the red one is called Zun HaPrati. And the Zun HaPrati has two Bechinot, Lachash and Chazara. And the yellow one has Kriyat Shema and Nefilat Apayim. The orange one is talking about how you have Shachrit, Mincha, and Arvit. That's all. And there's a Chidush that in Mincha also, you see the yellow one also comes back in some way. So it means, in other words, when you look at the Tefillah then, if you, let's say you're doing Arvit now, let's say we're not going to do Arvit, yeah? So all our Avodah is in the Kli Chitzon on the first day of Lel Rishon of the orange one.
Okay.
You understand? Now, when you get to Sim Shalom for that, there'll also be a Chagat and a Nai, right? You ask me, what about Nefilat Apayim? There's no left about Arvit. You don't have to do the Chabad of Arvit. Arvit doesn't have a Chabad.
Okay, so
Right? Don't have Chabad. Mincha, there is a Chabad, but it's the last thing you want to worry about right now, right? You have to, in 10 years' time, you write your Sfarim, the first ones start coming out, you can talk about what happens in Mincha. Because virtually no one talks about it.
But you know,
Rav Tidhar, Rav Futterman, they allude to it a little bit. Right now, they do the Mikubalim are doing Kavanot every day, and they don't talk about what happens in Mincha. No one does Kavanot in Mincha. I'm telling you, they don't do Kavanot when it comes to Libat Apayim. And Ariz clearly says to do it. Right? It's in the Siddurim. Okay? And some Siddurim don't even have it actually, but it's in the Siddurim. Okay. So Arvit Mincha, you got a day off. Yeah? Shachri, the third day of the orange one, right? That's got the Kli Primi. So then you finish a Seder of 3 days to finish that whole Partuf. But that Shachri, which is on the third day, you have to know that Shachri, the day before, in the red one, the Birurim first went up. Then it went back down and came back up. And you're looking, Shachri Kli Primi, it's talking about Yom Bet of the red one. The same, the third day of the orange one, the second day of the red one is the same thing. If you can understand. He's just talking about two different aspects. The fact that you're doing, in other words, day one, you did Arvi. Day two, you did Mincha. But of the Shachri, of that one, the Birurim came in and went up to Biyah. Got to Ahavat Olam. You understand? That's the Shachri that we did on day one. Which is the same as the orange day two.
What are you doing? You're not fixing the Birurim. What are you doing?
Yeah, I think the Birurim.
And
In Sim Shalom, there'll be, but you'll, in that Arvit, depending which, the first day of that Arvit, on the Arvit, so there'll be a Lachash and a Chazarah, so you'll do the Nai and the Chagat of the Arvit, of the Kli Chitzot.
why is that different than the red?
The red and the yellow is all Kli Pnei. It's all talking about Shachri. It's all part of Shachri. We're only talking about Shachri. Right? I would say Shachri. I mean, it happens to have Kavanot and Shachri. It doesn't mean, look, okay, I'm just trying to simplify it.
So should that have been
Not what?
just speak itself, and the red is better than speak. But we had Shachrit.
I'm not saying in the red there's no other things as well, but we only looked at Shachri. Can you see it says Shachri, red, Shachri, Shachri. We're talking about Shachri. So now, when we understand there's this order that's taking all these days, 3 days to work. So let's say go very quickly. So on the first day, right? Look at the yellow one, which is for the Chabad. There's a whole extra day. There's a whole 24 hours where Mochin Da'achor comes in. We don't have to do anything for it. Yeah, Mochin Da'achor means has to come into the Olamot, go up to Olamot, up to Biyah, and then come to what would normally be in a Shachri Avat Olam, and then that's all the Achor, and then you get from back the Gadlut, which comes in a Chad of Shema, and then to Be'ava. All that happens by itself. The whole Achor, before till you get to the Nesirah, which would normally be in La Be'ava and in Zun Prati, and Zun Dechlalu Kol Akad, all that happens by itself. Don't have to do anything. So that's the whole first day of Yom Aleph, Binyan Achor. Yeah? This is Binyan Achor. Then, when you finish 24 hours, it comes to the time of Arbi, around this sort of time that we're in now, in the evening, right? Then it gets to Shkia, and you do Tfilat Arbit. You finish Tefillat Arbit, which would be the same as day one of the orange one. Yes, every day there'll be an Arbit. Yeah, you finish that. Nothing to do with us. We're not interested in Arbit. Arbit's got nothing to do with Kriyat Shema Mita. Nothing to do with the yellow one. Nothing happens in Arbit. We just go straight past it. Yeah. And Arvit, they'll be doing tikkunim for the other things over there. Yeah. But for now, what we're learning Kriyat Shema Mita, we don't need Arvit, bichlal. Okay. Then, right. Now, the truth is, in the Shema, Kriyat Shema Mita, there are things which might be connected to Arvit, but we're taking those all out. Those Kavanot we don't need to do because they're incidental. They're not the main Kavanot Kriyat Shema Mita. You know, if you want to talk about somebody who wants to do Kriyat Shema Mita according to the basic understanding of what it is, what is it? It's the Pratzuv Chabad called Zun Dechlalut Kol HaKat Sha'ot, which comes really in its combination. The big part of it is in Nefilat Apayim. And that's after you already passed 2 days where you had the Rashash and Chazara yesterday for the Chagat and the Nai. And then you wait to get to the Nefilat Apayim, and that's the big, right? That's why it's called the Zivug Elyon. And that's why the Leshem says it actually starts in Sim Shalom and it finishes in Nefilat Apayim because it's all kind of connected. And the truth is, in Sim Shalom, there is a Kavanah where the Tipa goes down to the Chazeh of Zah, and there's no Zivug. And then there is a zivug. So all the what do you mean? Either it's in the chazeh or it's all the way down to the yisod. You can't have a zivug and say the tipa's in the chazeh. There's no such thing. So that's a different tipa. That's a tipa that's going to be Nefilat Apayim, Kat Sha'ot, Zun Dechlalut. So even in Sim Shalom, there is a kavanah for Kat Sha'ot, right? But we don't need to know about that. That's part of Nefilat. It's on the way to Nefilat Apayim. It's the beginning of the zivug. So the Leshem says there's 2 parts to the zivug. There's the Hachnasat Yisod Be'Yisod, and then there's the Netinat HaTipa. So when we think about a zivug of a Chatan and a Kala, all we imagine in physicals is there's a physical connection between the two. Hachnasat Yisod Be'Yisod. That's not really the zivug. That's just the location. The actual zivug is when the tipot of the man and the woman join together to make a ubar. That's the zivug. The tipot, zivug tipot, not the body's zivug. Understand? So the Leshem uses that to forget all about Kat Sha'ot. Says it's all Rashash. Arizal holds that the whole thing is really there's only one zivug, and it starts in Sim Shalom and it finishes in Nefilat Apayim. All one zivug. Understand? But the Rashash has a whole different understanding, right? The Kubbalim of the generations, they didn't learn like that. They learned that there's this very complicated order, right? And that's the order of the world, because this Zun Dechlalut, the Kat Sha'ot, we said, Ari himself said, that's the 12 hours of day and the 12 hours of night that the world really, our lives go according to that. And that's one the Sechvi Vina Lachin Ben Yom Ben Laila. Yom is Zah and Laila is Nuk. So that only works in the Kat Sha'ot. So you have to create this order of Kat Sha'ot. And it's the Rashash shows you where it is. There's kushot on the Leshem. But I mean, the Leshem was so great. We can't say he didn't know what al kushot are. He knew what al kushot were. He had a different order, right? Different mahalech. So now, Rabotai, today we've understood that there's something called Zun Dechlalut Kol HaKat Sha'ot. I don't expect you to know this if it's the first time you're ever hearing about it. It'll take years to grasp it. Right? But Bekitzu, Kriyat Shema Mita is built around this very high zivug that will finish only in Nefilat Apayim. The Chidush is that in order to do this zivug, you have to have 2 zivugim. The zivug Kadma'a, which gives the levushim of the man to the woman that he got from his mother, which is in Kriyat Shema Mita. And you have to do it in 2 stages. You have to give it from Abba to Ima and then from Zah to Nuk. And that's called zivug Kadma'a. Instead of creating a baby, the man gives the woman a levush called Ha'uru Chadash Havik LaBa'ala, which is mentioned in the Zohar Kadosh. And exactly the same thing has to happen again with the tipot, which means in Nefilat Apayim, actually, I shouldn't say that, in Kriyat Shema of Yotzer, there's a kavanah in the middle of Shema where Abba will give the rucha to Ima, right? And then somehow when you get to Nefilat Apayim, Zah will have it and he'll give it to Nuk. So in other words, this order of Kriyat Shema depends on now this is like everything we said to now was background. Now we're going into the actual Kriyat Shema Mita. Hopefully we'll see inside in the next few weeks, yeah? If you're not going away or whatever, and we'll see. Yeah. We'll work it in a minute. Yep. So what happens is you have 2 stages, Abba to Ima, Zah to Nuk. First for the Kli Berucha, which is in Kriyat Hamitta, both of them. And then you have the actual tipa. The tipa comes down from above. Abba gives it to Ima gives it over to Zah, and then Zah has to give it to Nuk in Nefilat Apayim. Right? So you have to do everything twice. So when we're talking about Kriyat Hamitta, we're talking about the order which you're doing before you get to Nefilat Apayim. So if you look now, get now into our chart, on the yellow, it says Yom Echad Binyan Achot. That went past 24 hours. Then you go past Arvi into Kriyat Hamitta, and it says Nesira. So the Kriyat Hamitta has two very important parts to it. One is the Nesira, because after you finish with the Achor, you split them up, and you split them up from into two parts. Zanok becoming independent, so that they can then have a zivug, and then you can get the mochin of the panim. So the first thing you have to do is give her the rucha, kli berucha, then give her the panim. If you remember the order, we learned those 13 stages, right? You take it out from her, put it back into Zah, and then he's me'ir to her, like the brachot of Shmoneh Esrei, right? Kedugmata, and then the zivug will be at the end in Sim Shalom. So here you have to do the same order. Then the sirah, after the achor, is in Kriyat Hamitta. He gives her the kli berucha, which would have been equivalent to in Be'ahava. And then for the next 24 hours, you bring all the mochim of the panim. Actually, you bring them down first to Zah, but then you take them out of her, you put them into Zah, and then Zah gives them to her for 24 hours. And then you'll get to the third day, in Shachrit of the third day, there'll be a Nefilat Apayim. In Mincha, there's a Haskar. It's just, forget Mincha, it's not important. But on the third day, in Kriyat Shema the Yotzer, in Milat Echad, Ima will give, the husband will give it to Ima. So over here, Tipat Hazra Yored Le'ima. Yeah. And then in Nefilat Apayim, Patzu Chabad, right? Zivug the Holada, the Tipat Hazari. That's the actual Tipa of the Zivug of Zavinoko, Yaakov Rachel. Right? So that's where it all finishes. That's the avodah to get to that next. So every time we do Nefilat Apayim, we're talking about this yellow box on day number 3. That's Nefilat Apayim. Yeah. So happy to be able to explain this because I wish it was so simple, right? Because in Nefilat Apayim, there's some say no, it's also included this. You have to do that. This is easy, and what it says, it fits everything. And Baruch Hashem for Rabbi Shaul. So now let's carry on. Okay, Rabotai, today is the Yahrzeit of the Arizal. The Arizal was born in Yerushalayim, right? When he was 8 years old in 1640, right? He was born according to their counting, right? He lived in a house. One of my Talmidim lived in that house in the old city. It's called the Beit Shel Arizal. Yeah, it's in the Rehov, I think Hari actually, if I remember correctly, right? And at 8 years old, he lost his father. Rabbi Shlomo Luria was his father. Luria Ashkenazi. He had a dream, or he saw Eliyahu Navi, and he said to him, you know, you're going to have a child. He's going to teach Klal Yisrael to get rid of all the klipot. He's going to help them, and he's going to disseminate all the Torah of the Kabbalah. He said, I need to be the sandak. I'm going to come to the Brit and wait for me to come in. Don't do the Brit. If the Moel wants to do it, stop him. Don't let him do it. Say, wait until I sit on your lap, and you're the sandak, and then you do the Brit. And it'll be a big luminary for Klal Yisrael. And that's what happened. He passed away. He was 8 years old and his mother said, we got no money, we can't live over here. Let's go to Mitzrayim. Her brother lived in Mitzrayim. Yeah. And she said, he will feed us. He took him in like a son, and he paid for Rabbi Tzalel Ashkenazi, who was the Shita Mekubetze, to teach him Torah until he was the greatest Chacham in Mitzrayim. Still pool, huh? He wrote some of them, yeah. Wrote some of the glosses on it, yeah. And then he had a very interesting practice. Then his uncle gave him his own daughter to marry. So his wife was, I think her name was Angelica, right? He very interesting names. He had 3 wives, I think. His life. Yeah. It says in the Zimmer, yeah. What was the other one? Jamila was his daughter's name. Angelica with his wife. Angel, I write it. So the Arizal, he used to get davenet sachama with the Pa'alim, because they would run to work and no one had time to talk. He never said a word. He'd go in, do minyan, and run out, and then go to the Nile or the banks of the Nile, and then with Eliyahu Navi. Did that for 7 years. And he says the most important thing for Hasaga is to break the nut. You know, it says in in the Zohar that there's this, the Istur Heter of halakha is the Etz Hadat Tov V'Ra. So if you want to fix the Etz Hadat Tov V'Ra, which the Nachash corrupted, with the sin of Adam and Chava, so you have to learn halakha, and you have to break. He said sometimes you would sit on the all night long learning till you get to the break the klipa of the halakha. 6 different ways he would learn halakha, and the 7th one he says Keneged Asod, he'd learn for Shabbat, and that's how he learned. And it says sometimes he didn't sleep the whole night. He said he was there. Hamitta asked him, "How did you get to this greatness?" He said, "There's a Ramak as well." So he said, "Look, Hashem chose certain people according to what they achieved with their learning." He said sometimes he didn't sleep the whole night trying to work. Sometimes it's 6 nights he didn't sleep because he was learning. He couldn't let go because he was so engrossed in his learning. And okay, in other places Rav Hamitta explains how his head was like throbbing and he was such an incredible iyun he had and shkida to learn Torah. It says in another place that simcha is the most important thing. As we've learned before, we do a mitzvah, there's 5 parts of the mitzvah, right? There's the ma'aseh. Sometimes is a dibur, like in Shema, Kriyat Shema is a dibur, learning Torah is dibur tabam. But when there's a ma'aseh involved, the Gemara says, right, there's a machloket, Abai Rava in mitzvah sicha kavana or not. Was it Rabbi Yochanan? I can't remember which. Rabbi Shmuel, I think is. Whether the mitzvah sicha kavana is halakha or not. And the Mishnah Berurah and the Shulchan Aruch first paskins mitzvot sichas kavuna, right? So you have to have kavana. You get in a taxi in Israel, and you say to the driver, "Take me so and such a place," and right? Right? So if you do that mitzvah and you say Shem Yichud, and you give the taxi driver the money, Chavis Chaim says in Sefer mitzvah d'oraisa, right? So that's the maaseh. You have to have kavanah to say it in your mind. I'm doing a mitzvah from the Torah. So now the Ari says in the Zohar we learned there's actually 5 parts of the mitzvah. In the Gemara there's only 2 parts: the maaseh and the dibur, and the kavanah. Sorry. Going to the Arizal, there's 5. According to Zohar Kadosh, there's 5 parts. What are the 5 parts? You've got the maaseh, then you've got the dibur. The dibur is when you say either 2 opinions. One opinion is that it's the pasuk where the Torah teaches you that mitzvah. So you have to say the pasuk. Like it says in the pasuk, and say, Rav Yosef Chekidilya wrote a sefer, Shari Mitzvot, of all the L'Shem Yichud for all the mitzvot, Bizman Hazeh. Right, it goes to each one. He made the L'Shem Yichud for it. So he says that when you do that, that's one opinion, the dibur of the pasuk. Rav Shimon Agassi and the Shulchan Aruch Harav, Balatanya says no. If you have to learn all halachot with your mouth, that's the dibur of that mitzvah. So the more you learn it, the greater will be the kiyum of that part. Now, these 5 parts of the mitzvah, we've done 2 of them so far, correspond to the 5 parts of our neshamot. So when you do a maaseh, you became a tikkun of the nefesh. I'm glad you thought so. Hashem. I'm so relieved now. Yeah, why did you say this before? Waiting. If we don't do the maaseh correctly, the nefesh won't be fixed. If we do the dibur correctly by learning the halachot and saying the pasuk, then the ruach will be fixed. Then is the kavanah l'shem mitzvah. That means I'm doing this l'shem a Torah from mitzvah from the Torah. Then there's the machshava. So that's the ruach, neshama. That's the neshama. Then there's the chaya. Is machshava. What's machshava? You have to know how to do the mitzvah in your mind. It's written in the Gemara how to, like you have to have a shiur of this. You have to do that. You have to hand there. If you don't write the thing correctly, with the kishira, with the hiduk, all the different parts of how you do the mitzvah, you have to be in the machshava about what you're doing. Not l'shem mitzvah, but what you're actually doing. So it's all analytical. It's all in your head, right? If you don't have the right thought, you're not doing a mitzvah sometimes.
You did it right.
Yeah, but you have to use your mind to do it right. So there's something called machshava. Part of when you have the good machshava for the mitzvah, which is different to kavanah, the Shem mitzvah, right? That machshava is even higher. It's metaken the chaya.
So you have to have done it. You have to,
What about the
have to
Hida?
do it.
Yes, so that means you did it. Okay, so don't worry, we're not trying to catch you out.
No,
Yeah.
no.
So Rabotai,
Take a
what is the highest? What is the highest?
Yechida.
What makes taken the yichida? Do you know? Reuta Deliba, which is the Ratzon, which is the Simcha.
Mm.
And the Arizal says, without Simcha, you cannot have any kind of Hasaga. There's no such thing of any Chacham who reach anything without Simcha. And Navi has to have Simcha. And to explain it a little bit, it says in the Zohar Kadosh, and we'll carry on. Tachal, exactly. That's what he says. He brings a pasuk. Yeah. I spoke about it this afternoon in the Kollel. Rav Shmueli wrote a sefer about the Shivchei Ari. I mean, there's many Shivchei Aris, but in that section, it talks about Rav Chaim Vital wrote a sefer, Shivchei Arizal, where he said what he saw with his own eyes, how he knew what people would think. He could read the forehead, he could read the eyes, he could read the candles, he could read the siftufat of the birds, even the trees. He knew everything. Incredible what the result was. Can't imagine it. It's beyond our scope. But he says that the only way to reach any greatness is through Hasaga. And in Limud Torah, a person has to learn Torah. And another place, he says, first of all, he says you have to, sometimes Eliyahu would tell him, your chelek of what you received in the Har Sinai required a bit more iyun, so go back and learn again. You weren't Ma'ayin Rashi enough correctly for your chelek of Har Sinai. So the chelek of learning that you have to mashlim in this world, you don't know what it is. You have to do more you and more you, because maybe you've got a bigger chelek that you received in Har Sinai that you didn't yet bring out into the world. And it has to be take away the zahama of the nahash. Whenever you learn Torah, it's to bring out the shekhinah from the klipot. That's the main ikar kavanah in all the mitzvot that we do. And another place, it's Torah Chaim Vital. It says in the Kavanot, person should be lilmod al minat lelamed. Rabbi Yonah in Pirkei Avot says that is the pshat that we pray every day. Lilmod lamed. No, we're not praying to be a teacher and a rebbe and a gemara. But we're praying that we should learn in order to be lilamed. Meaning, if you learn something and you can't give over to someone else, you already don't know what you just learned, right? If you ask yourself, can I give that over now? Learn, right? So we already mentioned in one of the first shiurim that we had over here, but it says in Mevosh Arim, I think it was in Shab Sukim, about a person from the Zohar. It says, "I lo ra'ata zulatcha." Only Hashem knows what. No eye can see what Hashem sees. And the Ben Ish Chai quotes is when we learn Torah, it says the people who are zochen learning is the mechakein. They wait on the pshat and they go over it again and again and again and again. Because if I learn something and I know in my heart of hearts, I don't really know what I just learned. I'm just going to carry on. So that means I know that I didn't really learn it. So I go over it again. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows whether I've got pshat or I haven't got pshat. And by going over it again, that's what the Arizal said made him great. He said sometimes I didn't sleep all night long, sometimes many nights. And what he was trying to say, the Ramak HaKadosh didn't do it that much as him. He didn't say it against the Ramak, but the Chaim Vital asked him specifically about that in that conversation. Another thing about is anger. Arizal says for Hasaga, apart from Simcha, a person must not have anger. He describes that a person can lose his neshama by getting angry. That's why in the Gemara and the Zohar, it says it's like you mustn't even speak to the person who's angry because it can affect you. And he says to learn Musar from somebody who's not a Bal Midot can be actually mazik a person's neshama. So it's like normally you say you learn Torah from anywhere, it's Torah, right? He told Arizal, when it comes to Musar, don't learn Musar from somebody who himself is not meant to come because it can be mazik you. That's what he told him. He said a person gets angry, chas v'shalom, they lose their neshama, it goes into the tumah, and he gets the neshama of a goy. So it says Ruach HaKodesh. And it could take a long time to fix it, to get it back. And all the mitzvot he does goes to le'ibud. Doesn't get any of the mitzvot. That's what it says in Ruach HaKodesh. And who is he talking about? Rav Chaim Vital himself. He got angry once and he smacked his wife. And I said, Arizal had to work. Now Israel was only in start with Arizal with the Rav Chaim Vital for a year and about 2/3. And in that time, there was a while where he lost all his hasagot, Rav Chaim Vital, because he got angry with his wife. And he had to work. He said, "Work me Torah gadol, Rabbah, Zman Rabbah, Man Rav, Ache Heveti Yocha, brought you back to your level that you had." So Sha'ar Gilgulim as well. So hasagot, you have to, it doesn't just come for free. We have to work really, really hard to get it. Let's carry on. So we explained now Kriyat Shema Hamitta. We've explained that the whole purpose of Kriyat Shema Hamitta, the Ari HaKadosh is Megalet Lanu, is to the Kli Verucha and the Nesira. Right? The Nesira. And now, when Al-Zah Nukachol Be'achol, they can't make a zivug, right? They can't make a zivug. So we have to do two things. In order to Zah to give Nuk the zivug, the Kli Verucha, they go up to Abba Ve'ima, where Abba Ve'ima are Panim Be'Panim. And over there, he gives her the Kli Verucha. Right? Then they come back down, and then we do the Nesirah. Then we can go to sleep. Right? Then in the morning, we wake up and it carries on the Panim until you get to the end of that Shachrit of that day, and there'll be an Nefesh Apayim, and then there'll be another Zivug, the Holadah. That's what it's saying in this chart over here. Okay, so when we come back to Kriyat Shema, we're only interested in this one yellow box where the arrow is. Can you see this yellow box? That's the only thing we're interested in. The Kli Verucha. Now we're going to go through how it works. Now, the kavanah of this is doubled. It's in the bracha and it's actually in the Shema. And the Mefarshim argue, where is it really happening? In the bracha or in the Shema? And the answer is, in neither of them. It's happening in Chatzot. But where is so where is the remez and where is the ikar? We say ikar being the ikar that we have to mechaven as if it's happening now for Chatzot. And when is only that? There's two places. One is the remez and one is, so we're going to see the Kavanot twice. So now in the bracha we'll see the first place, right? So it's milah Baruch Shem Yichud Ribono Shel Olam Baruch, right? Hamapil. So very simply it says here V'yichaven b'Shem Ab Shu Arich Shu Hamapil. It says in the pasuk, "Vayapel Adonai Elohim Tadema al Ha'adam." Hashem brought the sleep upon Adam Arishon. Right. So the Hashem Elokim in the pasuk corresponds to Arich. We have the Partufim. We have Arich, and we have Abba Ve'ima, Yasut, and Zun. Yeah, you know that. So in order for Zah to go to sleep, Arich has to take away his mochin, which he gave to Abba Ve'ima. Abba Ve'ima will then take it away from Zun. Zah will have nothing, and then we'll give it to Nuk. Game over. That's called the Dormita. Right? So Arich takes it away from Abba Ve'ima. Abba Ve'ima Ve'yasut from Zun, from Zah, I should say, and Zah from Nuk, and then everything is given to Nuk. Yeah? So that's what we're doing now. Hamapil is Arich to take away Shem Ab. Right? So Hamapil, the one who's causing the sleep to come this onto Zah, which means you're taking away his mochin. Who's the Mapil? Who's the one that does Arich? Arich, Zab. Right? He puts the slumber on the eyes, right? Right? Who's Sag? Okay. And it says in the Rashash, because we haven't done anything today, it must be from yesterday. Right? Who's yesterday? Go back to the chart and you'll see that's the Achor in the chart. Yeah? The Achor which was on Yom Echad of the yellow. That's yesterday. That's what this yesterday means. Understand? Baruch Hashem. Utruma ala fapai. So this one's a little bit more complicated. All three of them, סילקו ערתם מן המה שהוא דמידת יום שעבר. ומסתלקין המוחין ממנו. So in the words, על הפאפאי, you have the dormita. All right, this is where Zah goes to sleep. We take out all the mochin like we do in the shofar, right? Take it all out from him. The Nuk, she loses everything at that stage. She becomes a nekuda. Now, she loses even the power of giving birth, let's say. Yesterday, when he gave it to her in Kriyat Shema, she's going to lose that. You understand? The one that the Nuk that used to have it, she loses that in the Dormita. And then Arich comes back, right? And we've written over here, he's the Mapil. What does he do? What does Zah do? Who's the Bat Ayin? Look. So if you remember, when we talk about the Panim, the Orot of the Panim, you take everything from Zah, you give it all to Nuk, and she's as high as he is, right? Then you take it back out from her, give it to Zah, and then he's made it to her. Yeah, that's the same exact order always. Then he's me'ir it back to, that's the Shemona Esrei, all the brachot, the Shemona Esrei. It's all panim, right? So we're at the stage now. Now over here, there's a Bati Legani that explains from different sources that all the ikar of this bracha is talking about the panim and not the achor, right? So look at this stage. You have to add in the 1, 2, and 3, which I brought in over here, in the brackets, right? So the nuk, let's talk again. There was the achor, then they went up to Abba Vima, and he has to give it the Kli Barucha. And then they come back down. Then there's an Nesira, right? And then you finish with the achor, then you have to bring the panim, and then there's a zivug. So this bracha is telling you the whole story. So at this stage, it says, you took it all out of Zah. You gave it all to Nuk, right? That means Arich is going to give everything to Nuk. When Nuk is in that state, where she's B'chol Gova de Zah, which is the only time it happens, only for a flash, and then she loses it. So really her height is half of Zah. But at that point, she's the same height, because he loses everything, you give it all to her. Remember Rosh Hashanah? That's the Kavanot of the shofar. Give it all to her. Yeah? So when that happens, she's so high that she gets the Shem Ab. That's what we're going to see in a second. Right? So let's go through the stages. Number 1, Uboneu Magdir Partzufa Be'achorav. So first of all, she gets everything behind him, and she really gets it that smoke, meaning from Imah. She's not just a He'ara that used to be a light behind his back. We took it all out from him, and we gave it all to her. Shelo al yedei zah. And that's why she's Boneh Partzufav the Achorav. She's behind him, but the full height. That's number 1. So we've written here, Knisat Mochin the Achor Benug. So the Bati Legani, he explains it, spells it out fast. Right? This bracha is telling you, first, if the Rashash himself wouldn't have said these things, you wouldn't know. But you have to know what the Rashash wants from us over here. He's telling you, Boneh Magdir Partzufav Be'achorav. That's Achor. So she gets all the orot of the Achor. He's asleep. Right? Number 2, Venosra, Nesira, Yalla. Mevia lefanav. What does Mevia lefanav? That means they went up to Abba Ve'ima, Lechek Abba Ve'ima. He gave her the Kli Barucha, and they came back down. So number 2, in these words, Bat Ishan, you've got everything happening. You even got the Kli Barucha, which we're going to do in Kriyat Hamitta. We haven't even got to the main Kavanot yet. And this bracha is already telling you everything that's going on. And there's a shita that says, this is where it really happens. Everything else is only a remez of it happening. Right? So, but you still have to do those Kavanot. Number 3, V'chozeru boneh magdil partzufa lifnei zah, not achorav. That means panim. Right? And then there'll be a zivug at some point in the future, nefilat apayim, right? And then it says, Umachzir Shem ben sheba le'av. So where she's Ben, we know that.
Where's the Shem Ben here?
No
This is
Ben,
not Ben.
doesn't exist.
This is Av.
But shouldn't it be Ma?
Hmm?
Shouldn't it be Ma?
No, Ma is Av. No.
The Kiddush is, Zah's got nothing, he's asleep. So you need Arich to give it. So Arich is Av.
But it came from that.
It came from Arich. That's what the whole Kiddush is over here.
Boneh Magdil Partzufa Be'achorav is from.
That's where the location is, but the koach is coming from Arich. That's the whole point, right? There is a Ben missing over here. You're right. I need to write the Ben and then the Ab. It's missing.
What usually
There's a Ben. You need to put a Ben in here, Abutai. It's missing. Yeah, there's a Ben, and it has to show you that from Ben she goes to Ab. So on the right hand side, make a box and write in there Ben. Okay.
What?
You always have to. Huh?
What? That we also is it the same from.
Yeah. It is. The story of Arich is a very, very complicated story, right? Just today I was learning that the Arich really doesn't have a nook. We say nook the Arich, it means the right side and the left side, right? The ma and the ben. There is a real nook, Arich, but in our avodah we don't do anything with it until Mashiach comes, because that zivug of Arich v'nook is of the Yechidah, and the neshama of the Yechidah is the Mashiach. So until Mashiach has to come, that's when Zan, Arich and Nuk will have a real zivug. It says Hamitta in a few places. So the Arich that we're talking about is the Arich that gives a chelek that causes Abba ve'ima to give the Mochin to Zun to have a zivug. So because it's right and left, but it's not for now. Okay, so arich has a very big part to play. That's why we're mentioning it. Okay, Robert, so that's the whole mahalech according to the bracha. Now, quickly, we're going to spend maybe 5-10 minutes just to go over it inside. We won't get a chance to do it, but just to see what's involved. Yeah, first we learn it, and then we go back and explain it with more depth. We have to show with Shah Kavanot and Sharuch HaKodesh. So we turn the page. Please put in that pen, by the way, because it's missing. If you haven't done it already, yeah, you got a pen. Shema Yisrael. So after the Yirat Tom Lifanecha v'chulei, right? Shema Yisrael. There's a zivug over here. If a person misses Kriyat Shema in his life, then he can do it at the time of Shema, especially Yichud, to fix it. There's also one for Shemona Esrei, one for Talit, and one for Tefillin, right? And in the Kriyat Shema L'mitah, there's a whole section for all of them that you can do every night before going to sleep. But we didn't bring it in because that itself is like 2 pages long, right? So here, because we're doing any Shema ever, you're supposed to do the zivug after you say the word Shema. Actually, I want to turn it the other way around because you can't do the zivug if you didn't say the word Shema, but they always put it before the word Shema. But Ramani says, really, it's when you say Shema. And we learned it. In fact, he says that you must do that, and then another rabbi, he puts it before and he says, go and see Ramani, who says the opposite. And he brings Ramani as a proof for the opposite of what he did. So anyway, that's that. I'm going to change that as well. I'll put the Shema before it. It's better. But it does say before that Yechaven la'asot nishmato merkava leramach sevot she'alidei ola nishmato lerikia ve'alidei dikduk ben tevot metaken haklipa de yetzira, I should say. The Leitzanot, so Leitzanot. Okay, we turn the page and it says Hashem Elokeinu Hashem. Okay, so now in these words already, we have to bring down what are we doing all the time? Tell me what we're doing. Who remembers what we're doing? What's Kriyat Shema Hamitta? What do we have to do? Kli Berucha. So where does it come from? Arich. Comes from Atik, actually, which is called Arich al Atik. In Atika, in the Lashon of the Zohar, is actually Arich. But there's a concept above that called Atik. Atik Benok. No? They're both Keter. So look what it says over here. Gam Yechaven Lamshich, and then I've written over here Derech Mazalot, because whenever something comes from Arich, the Tikunei Dikna of Arich is number 8 and number 13, not 7 Akeh. There's a zivug, and it comes from that zivug down to Zah Benok. That's Abba Ve'ima. Well, Abba is in number 8, and Nima is behind number 9 and number 13, and that's the zivug of our Chech Garon. So the Batzilei Gani says it's pashut that it means derech hamazalot, meaning through the zivug of the mazalot. So you have to be lahamshich la'aba v'ima v'da'at, right? Dichlalu kakat shaot. Gimel minei shefa migibel ab. Shem b'gematria rayu. So we know that this rayu, everything is always rayu. Yeah, rayu is borot, but rayu here is talking about the kli berucha. It's 3 times ab. Okay, just a few little things when we're learning this, right? There's like the ben and the ma or the gvurot, hamisha gvurot chasadim. When we talk about the kli berucha, which is called zivug kadma, which is given this zivug, I mean they're having a whole business of a unity of a zivug just to give her this zivug, this kli berucha. So in other words, the kli berucha is like a baby that's being born, but there's no baby being born. There's just a levush, right? So it's called 3 times ab. Instead of calling it a tipa, we call it rayu alyon or rayu tachton. Okay, and when you're talking about Kriyat Shema Hamitta, the kli berucha, it's called chamisha gevurot. When you're talking about the tipa itself, it's called chamisha chasadim. So if you look at all the Kavanot v'ya'avor and Nefillat Apayim, everything there is chamisha chasadim, and it's rayu 3 ab, 3 ab, 3 ab, 3 ab. It's in the Slichot books as well, right? But when you're looking over here, it's 3 abs, but it's chamisha gevurot. Okay, so that's the thing to understand, the 2 different things. So now, how do we create these 3 abs? So first one, Shefa me'atik le'aba, Hashem. Elokeinu me'atik le'ima. Hashem me'atik le'da' da'aba ve'ima. Da' da'aba ve'ima means the mazala you give, which is mezaveg aba ve'ima. It's a different sugya we don't need to know. All we need to know from this is that we created 3 shefas, which created 3 abs, which now we have our rayu. Right, that's all we want. That's all we want from this. Right? Hashem, Elokeinu Hashem, we got our tipa. which is the levush, which is called rayu, which is called the kli berucha. Where do we need to get it to? Nook, right? So it's still far away. We've only got to Abba Vima now. Number 2. המשכת הכלי ברוחה מעתיק עד אבא. במילת הוויה השני, אחר שהמשיך לגימל מיני שפע, במיגו אבא נזכרים, right? We have to do the following. Number 1, the red number 1. מידה דעתיק שבאווירה דאריך, יכוון להמשיך הגימל אב. So we already got the 3, yeah? עצמן. שם עצמות הטיפה של הרוחה, בחינת ראיו דאותיות, לעומת טיפת הזרעית, which is be נפילת אפיים, בחינת 4 תיבות, בקריאת שמע דיוצר. That's שרוך הקודש, it's a little note. אם 5 גבורות, why is 5 גבורות? To tell you that it's not a real טיפה of a baby being born of the עולמות, but rather לבוש. שהוא הכלי, that's the kli of the levush of the shavik babala. Now we've learned from here that there's something called the rucha and the kli of the rucha. And when you're dealing with ima, the ruach, the abbas, the shavik, le ima, his wife, is rayu ha'otziot, which is a rayu ha'elyon, which is the 3 abs, right? And the chamisha chasadim, grot, is the kli of the rucha. The mochasti ma'darich, and now you just pass it down. Right? לגבורות דעתיק שבחוכמה דעריך, אז כל מחסתימה, למזל שמיני, ושם למזל השמיני נותן חסד, אפשר לדעת העליון, ונקה מזל הי"ג, that's it. So now we are holding by the mazalot of Arich, which is the Tikkunei Dikna. We're ready to go over to Abba Vima. We haven't got there yet. Before we gave Shefa, which is for Abba Vima, you see that Hashem Elokeinu Hashem, he didn't go to Abba Vima, and only as a ha'ara to them. He didn't actually give it to them yet. Okay, we'll have to come back and go. It's too complicated. Echad, we do Abba Mitot Bedin, which is a machloket, but very clear that we should do it. And then it says, in number 3, Gam Yichaven Lamshik Gimel Ga'ah Mikach Bade Abba. That means we already got to Abba. Li Yisodo, to the Yisod of Abba, or Yisodo Li Yisod Dima. Shehen Rayu Elyon. This is called the Abba gave the Rucha to Ima. והם ראו אותיות, ויעשה ויבוא ויית, עם 5 גבורות, ולכן יכוון לכונן לתקן את הכלי דמן, ליסוד דאימה. That's the ראו העליון. That's the כלי ברכה that Abba gives to Ima. Right? Now, we have to ask ourselves, when does Zah get it? And this is a complicated sugya, and who was the first one that we know, the Siddur, that you have to deal with this? Of Yaakov Lopez. Right? Of Yaakov Lopez. Right? לפי Rabbi Yaakov Lopez, Zal, והרב ידיד הלוי, כאן נמשך הרוחה. You have to add in that it goes to Zah. There's a Torah Chacham which is very complicated. I'm not going to go into it now because it's too difficult to explain. We won't have time. But basically, when we turn the page and we get to Moshe K'vod Malchuto, we're going to give it to Noah. So that means Zah must have had it. Did he get it from the Shem and Sasson? Petach Kanaim says it, the Dalid of Echad, which is where Rabbi Yaakov Lopez must have got it from, not his brother, but yeah, the great grandfather. Yeah, so the Dalid of Echad is where it happens, and he's got a lashon meforash like that. He found in the Siddur that it's a Dalid of Echad that Zah gets it. But the Torah Chacham says this is Baruch Shem Kivod, and the words of Baruch Shem Kivod, Zah gives it to Nook. So in order to Zah give it to Nook, he has to first get it, right? So it's very simple. Baruch, it says Chachan of the right Tachton. Techabad Dezah, then Baga, and then Dati, Baruch Shem Kivod. The 3 different bechinot you have to give to Nook, right? These are He'arot, right? We haven't actually given the whole Kli Berucha yet, right? We have to be Mishach, right? It's the right Tachton, right? But they're He'arot. Malchuto, now you give it. So first of all, the stages, right? Gam Yechaven Leoret HaRayu Hazeh Tachton. That's a different name. The Rayu Elyon is 3 abs. Rayu Tachton is Ab Kedem. Ab Kedem is also Gematria Rayu, but it's a different situation altogether. This is the Kli, the Harucha, the Shavik La Ba'ala from Zah to Nook. Understand? From Abba to Ima was the 3 abs. That's called Rayu Elyon. Yeah, you saw that before? Hashem Elokeinu Hashem. Right? So there's 2 stages. Abba to Ima, Za to Nuk. For us, the Ikar is to give it to Nuk, right? So this is where this is what we need to give to Nuk. In Malchuto, that's what we're talking about. And it's in a Chabad, in a Gulgolta of hers. And number 5, we now have to take our neshama up to Nuk. Let's go over it and come back next week and describe it. We're not going to have time to do it. I want to just give you an overview so you can see all the things that we have to know, right? So now we've learned over here now, there's a Rai Elyon and the Rai Tachton has been created, right? Now, in order for Zah to be able to give it to Nuk, it needs our Siyua. So we have to be Ma'aleh, our own Nefesh Ruach, up to Bahafkadah. So din Pikadon. That means we have to send out, it's not like when we're taking up the man. Later on, we're going to have to do this again. Well, the Zun is going to our neshama are going to have to go back to Nuk for the Birurim. But now it's not that. Now it says, Gam yechaven hafkid nafsho v'recho benuk. It's hafkadah. It's a din of hafkadah. Okay? We'll come back and explain it another time, right? That's in Malchuto. Le'olam va'ed. This is where the avodah takes place. First one, number 6, is Nesirat Zun. So remember in the bracha we already did this remez, right? But here it's talking about it in the kavanot of the Shema. Yeah, it's the same. That means Zanuk, a yoresh to makom of Abba v'ima, because they can't make a zivug. So they go up to Chek Abba v'ima. There they now suddenly magic panim bepanim. That means up there, the panim bepanim. That's where the Nesirah takes place. And then they'll come back down. Now, what's the zivug up there? The zivug there. That's the zivug of Zav with Nuk. That means they're now in the matzav of zivug, but he hasn't given it to her yet. The zivug itself is called zivug ner. The giving of it is number 8. Asiyat kli l'uchad l'nuk. That's the ab kedem. And you have to be mechaven that the ab kedem, he gives it to her. And when she gets that kli, it's the mem, it's the rechem of the le'olam va'ed. Le'olam va'ed. Le'ol, without the mem, and va'ed will create a gematria of ab kedem, of rayu, and then the mem is the rechem itself. Unbelievable. We turn the page, and now there's all kinds of very interesting things to do. We're going to go very quickly now. I'm just going to mention them, and next week is Shem or next Shiur. Is a Hera Gidola from Ima's Yesod, where's the Rawi Elyon, which is the Ruach, the Shavik Labala, which Abba gave to Ima. This is special Chereb Elyon to destroy all the enemies of Klal Yisrael who destroy the Neshamot of Klal Yisrael. It's called the Chereb Elyon. Right? Because Charbo is Gematria Rayu as well. So with the Rayu Elyon of Ima, you can destroy with that Chereb, the Charbo. It says, that means we can save the Neshamot of Klal Yisrael. So it won't be ala teva chas v'shlom, things going on in the world, that just by doing this kavanah, we can prevent that from happening. The next thing is, there's a quote from the Rayu Tachton, because of where she is, there's a klipa over there, where the Rayu Tachton is meaning in the Yesod of Nuk, because she now has received the Av Kedem already. That's called the Rayu Tachton. So very quickly, then the two of them together, this is where we've got a whole new parasha, which got nothing to do with Kriyat Shema Beikaron. And it's to do with Shazal, person wasted Shazal of Klal Yisrael. Right? Now, and what happens to that Shazal? The Gefim Timeim of the Mazikim take them. And when you've got this kavanah over here, these two cherubs, and the Tachton, Elyon and Tachton of Ima and Nuk, together, they can smash those Gufot Timeim, like the Mordechai says, in one night, 101, or you can do, it's 106,000, it's got a funny number over there, right? And you can smash out all these Gufot Timeim. That's and the next kavanah now is to bring them back, the actual tipot, to Zah, as it says in Shar Haruch HaKodesh and Chacham, and then Zah will give it to Nuk and put it into the same mem of the Leolam, which is Harechem. And then number 13, we'll end with this today, right? Number 13, as the Bati Legani explains, it's a diagram that explains how everything stands now after we've done all of this, right? And what can you see in the diagram? You can see the Rayu Elyon, which is the 3 abs, right? Which the Torah Chacham says is the highest level called the Chaya. Then the Rucha de Nuk is now called Shem Ab. That's how rucha.
No?
That's the rucha itself. The ruach.
Neshama, what neshama is Shem Ben, no?
Neshama, right?
Shem Ben.
Because it's nuk, right? But understand this is the rucha. Then you got the clear rucha or the clear hayesod, right? Clear rucha is the ruach. That's the avkedem, the kol rayu tachton. And then you've got the actual nefesh, which is in the rechem of nuk. What does that mean? These tipot comes in, and you be able to yotzer the 22 letters of iman from Zah. It's another sugya. It's called the Sirvit. It's how you make the mem of the kriyaman. This yisod is a mem. Is made up of these matzipachs, right? And all of that is in the kli yisod nuk, which is there's all that was all mochin. This is like a kli now. So that's the Shem, the three shaddais, which is kli, pnimi, and chitzon. Always, when you talk about the kli yisod of nuk, it'll always be that Shem, right? Baruch Adonai leolam, amen v'amen.
In the box in the neshama, there's a Shem Ben.
Yeah. Which neshama?
In 13.
In 15.
13. Neshama, Rucha Denukba.
Yeah, that's right. That's how rucha. It's a big. It's in so many places in the tefillah that this ben is where we send it to. You're right. It is meant to be. כן. רק אני בהקלטה.
מי שיוכל לתרום להיכנס לפרשות
מתי זה? עד מתי?
היום עד מחר, אבל כאילו זה מי שצ'ארטי אקסטרה, כולל בנושא שיכול לתרום, ויעשה כאילו את השם, בגלל ששאר הקמפיין נושאים הרבה והכולל, מי שיודע כאילו...
זה כולל מעולה, זה כולל, אין כזה כולל באנגליה.
כן, יש את הרבה קריאת, הוא באמת החם הגדול של המקום, כן? מי שמכיר אותו ויודע כאילו...
אליאשקי.
קראתי אקסטרה וכל דיינות, מי שיכול לתרום, שזה באמת ידע שיעשה בשמיה. באמת זה יהיה קידוש השם.
Give us this chance and go.
תכף יוצא.
Don't know if this was something this and across, but that way. That's why I looked up on
Ask Rav Noah.
I'm asking you.
I would do.
Wait, how come across yes in this?